really good. Stop calling that. Yeah, with Karen, I've almost stopped. 3 times. After the third time, it's like, yeah. Oh yeah, she is. Bella. She has a lot of nicknames now around there. That's a good one. AFC is my favorite. I always look up conductors before
Yeah.
gigs. I went to his webpage. And Pavarotti. I texted Ron. I was like, "There's no way this song." Totally chill. Yeah. It's it. Yeah, we don't need. Right.
Every time I sing it, I do.
Yeah.
We did that at the
Oh yeah.
concert. I sang there.
Like we were just saying, we had this, like this. Don't need that. We don't need to rehearse that one. Whatever. Let's go home.
Seven
Bizarre
o'clock.
doubleheader. Like usually the.
Right.
I wonder if that's in the new CBA. Like that was. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's still hard to figure out. The team.
What are they? Yeah, I'm with you. Everyone who started panicking in April. It's like all you had to do is go to his baseball card and like every year. Harper is just. Yeah, see, like I never saw him, but he's Harper almost like maybe got a little vibe.
That was great.
It was such a nice moment.
Would have,
Have to, right? Enough of a sample size with him now that he's like.
Wonderful. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to review this niggin that we learned new last week. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Same thing. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Yai la la, yai da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da, yai da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, da 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 ya 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 da 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 da
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to congregants, to friends, to guests, to all who are joining us in person here in the sanctuary and all on the live stream. It is so wonderful to celebrate Shabbat with all of you. We are honored, as always, to have our congregational president, Hank Bernstein, with us on the Bima this evening. To ensure that we are praying together as one community tonight, let's first take a moment to introduce ourselves. If you're on the live stream, please introduce yourself in the chat. Or if you're here in person, please find someone new to greet, turn around, and wish them a Shabbat Shalom.
No, I never really did the, like classical always tried to. Every time I played, it was like he was playing with the pops a lot. Style. It was always really great. Like I would always. He would sit with me. Technique and like.
This Shabbat, tomorrow morning, we are honored that we have not one, but two B'nai Mitzvah. Jack Avend and Beatrice Blubman will be called to the Torah as they become a bar and bat mitzvah. We are so excited to celebrate with you and your whole families, and so we're honored to have Jack along with his mother Gail and his dad Nick and his brother Alex, and Bea along with her mother Michelle and her dad David and their sister Lulu to lead us in our Shabbat blessings, beginning first with candle lighting, which can be found on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner להדליק נר של Shabbat.
And the blessing of the wine, the Kiddush, can be found on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
L'chaim. Take a drink. Just juice. This week's Torah portion is called B'ha'alotecha, which literally means when you lift up, or a better translation perhaps, when you mount the lamps. B'ha'alotecha et hanerot. When you mount the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light at the front of the lampstand. What are they talking about? They're talking about the famous menorah. The original menorah, not the Hanukkah menorah, known as a Hanukkah, but the OG, the original menorah, which was just 7 branches right up here. there is a wonderful story as I think about the lamps in our sanctuary that many of you may remember from one of our wonderful congregational presidents, Michael. Thank you, Michael Houtman. Took me a second.
I wasn't
there.
even here.
Yeah, and you know it. It's been told so many times that many of you may remember that Michael Houtman shared at a High Holidays once, where he talked about a story about a very wealthy nobleman in a town who wanted to leave a legacy. And so he decided he was going to build a grand, beautiful synagogue for his village. And he wanted it to be a surprise. So nobody got to see any of the architectural plans. I think Michael might have taken some issue with that as a synagogue architect. Yeah. But he did it himself, got the whole thing built, surprise, opened it up, allowed everyone to come in. They all come, they find their seats, they look around. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. But they realize there's one thing missing. They look around, where are the lamps? There were no lamps. And so the nobleman said to all of them, he said, this is my legacy. He said, I give each family your own lamp. And all around the sanctuary are stands, mounts for those lamps. And that every time you come to Shabbat, every time you come to the synagogue, you bring your light. You bring that lamp. And together as community, you light up this space. But if you're not there, the synagogue is dark. And so it is with all of us. Every Shabbat, we, Beha'alotecha, we lift up our lamps. And all of you, when you come here in the sanctuary, when you join us in the live stream, you are bringing that light. You are lighting up our sanctuary with that light of Shabbat, that light of community. And so we take a deep breath and release, acknowledging that light inside of each of us that we bring to Shabbat, to this community. We join together in our singing of Kabbalat Shabbat songs, first on page 19 with Adonai Oz. Bottom two lines.
Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo. Same thing one more time. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom, v'shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo.
Page 24, we continue with Shalom Aleichem as we welcome those angels of Shabbat into our midst.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, שלום עליכם, מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, שלום עליכם, מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, במלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, שלום עליכם, מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
As we continue on pages 20 and 21 with Lecha Dodi, you often hear us say here from the Bima, with the joy of a wedding, we continue with Lecha Dodi, and it feels especially relevant this Shabbat as we are celebrating so many couples who have been married for so long with our reconsecration of vows later in the service. And so we say that line because, of course, we have a tradition of rising at the final verse and facing the entrance to symbolically welcome Shabbat in as if Shabbat is a bride. And so with extra, right? Ben Sion, you ready? If Ben Sion and Jane can do it, with extra joy, truly with the joy of a wedding, and hopefully many of our couples will want to practice a little simcha dancing, maybe a hora that you haven't done in a few years. Truly with the joy of a wedding, we continue with Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise.
בואי ושלום עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without the presence of the divine. Page 28, we continue with our call to worship. Please rise.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
In the middle of page 33, we read together, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated, page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
As we prepare to sing Micha Mocha on page 40 and relive our exodus from Egypt, you know, we're taught on Passover that in every generation it should be as if we personally left Egypt. We're reminded about how universal our Exodus story is and how it spoke to so many people throughout time, and really how our liberation and the liberation of others is so intrinsically connected. This year, our federal government is honoring Juneteenth as a national holiday. And so I want to offer this prayer in preparation of Juneteenth, a Jewish prayer for Juneteenth by Rabbis Sharon Bar Skolnick and Rabbi Hillel Skolnick. Our God, compassionate Redeemer, Emancipator, Liberator of the oppressed, downtrodden, and enslaved, you heard our ancestors' cries as slaves in Egypt, freed us from harsh labors with an outstretched arm, delivered us from bondage, took us to be your people, and brought us to our promised land. You heard the cries of black slaves in this country, freed them officially on this day with an outstretched arm. May you continue to deliver us from the bondage of injustice. Take us to be your people, treated by all with love and equity, and bring us to a moment when this land fulfills its promise. Ever listening, attentive one, hear us now. The journey has been long, the steps arduous and ongoing, but we celebrate freedom this day with love, memory, honor, resolved to be a force for positive change and fervent hope for freedoms still yet to be realized. As you have shown us compassion, help us to be compassionate. As you have liberated us, help us stand up against injustice everywhere. As you have delivered us, help us fight for freedom for all still enslaved. Remember us, hear us, and be with us. And let us all say, Amen.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי
Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. We continue with the tefillah on pages 46 and following. Please rise.
Yai lai 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 lai, yala 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 lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yala lai lai lai, 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 yala lai lai lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד. מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Traditionally on Shabbat, we shorten our Amidah, our Tefillah, which is normally much longer during the week, where we ask God for many things. However, on Shabbat, as it is our day of rest and God's day of rest, we don't think about those material possessions, those requests to God, but we do still ask for peace. And so we continue on page 60 with our request for that most precious gift to all of us, peace.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol v'chol hashalom, shalom rab al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rab al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Shalom רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We take moments now for silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. הוא עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. יאללה לה 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 עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן.
In a moment, we will be on page 253 for the Misha Beirach, our prayer for healing. First, the words of Rabbi Harold Kushner from his book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. We can't pray that God makes our lives free of problems. This won't happen, and it's probably just as well. We can't ask God to make us and those we love immune to disease, because God can't do that. We can't ask God to weave a magical spell around us so that bad things will only happen to other people and never to us. People who pray for miracles usually don't get miracles. but people who pray for courage, for strength to bear the unbearable, for the grace to remember what they have left instead of what they have lost, very often find their prayers answered. If you are holding someone in your heart tonight in need of healing, I invite you to say their names aloud or to write their names in the chat now.
Sheberach Avoteinu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholi. Sheberach Avoteinu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholi. Avoteinu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholi.
Our thoughts now move from thoughts of healing to thoughts of gratitude, joy, and celebration as we prepare to sing our blessing of gratitude, Shehechianu. Well, it'll be a little while before we get there because we have a lot to celebrate tonight. I'll just say, we got a babysitter, so I'm celebrating right there, right, Laurel? There we go. That's our celebration. Let's see. Anyone doing anything tomorrow morning? What do you say, Jack? Beatrice? Yeah? You guys feel like leading us in Torah and leading the service? Sound good? All right. Well, we are so excited to celebrate with the Abend and Blubman family. Mazel tov to you all. We have many couples that will be celebrating shortly tonight. If you're on the live stream, please feel free to write in the chat something that you're celebrating. But we are also tonight celebrating a wonderful, wonderful, I guess I'll say addition to the Jewish people, but really an affirmation. And so I want to welcome Jamie Berkowitz to come join me at the open ark as I invite the congregation to please rise. I say affirmation and not necessarily conversion because Jamie has some wonderful Jewish family, but wasn't raised in the faith particularly, and so really chose as an adult to take on that heritage and to really affirm her Jewish identity, and how incredibly special that is. You know, we talked a lot, Jamie, about how we talk about this idea of the Shalshelet HaKabbalah, that chain of tradition, and that in some ways, you know, in some generations we worry that maybe there's a break in that chain, but that you're repairing that chain. You are that next link and continuing Judaism through that lineage, through your family. And so what a joy it is to be with you today as we mark that affirmation of your Judaism, which was a couple weeks ago now, but in the meantime, you became a yoga instructor and did a lot of pretty other amazing things. So we're celebrating a lot. Jamie, you stand before the open ark and before the commanding presence of the Torah, the Jewish people's most cherished treasure. It's led us our way and guided us ever since we received it at Sinai. I'll place the Torah into your arms as you take it into your heart, as our Jewish people have done in life since our beginnings. You are known by the name Jamie, which means that you're always linked in love to those who gave you life. And from this time forth, you shall also be known within our Jewish community as Shoshana Bat Azriel. May this name bring respect and honor to the Jewish people. We rejoice to welcome into our midst one who willingly and devotedly helps maintain our Jewish traditions. As our people have done throughout the ages, I ask God's blessing upon you now in these ancient words. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's presence shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be with you always and grant you the most precious gift, the gift of peace. Ken Yehirat Son, may this be God's will. Amen. Mazel tov. All right. Gets heavy, right? That's the weight of 5,000 years of Jewish tradition. Jack and B, you ready for that tomorrow? Please be seated. I'll stay up here, I think. And we're now moving into another moment of Shechianu, another moment of gratitude, which is to, actually I gotta come down and get my paper, which is to recognize all of the amazing marriages and commitments within our congregation. We have a tradition often in June to have a Shabbat service where we invite those in our community who are celebrating 5, 10, 15, any multiples of 5 of their wedding anniversaries to reconsecrate their vows with us. I think we've traditionally done it this time because it's usually around the time of Shavuot, when we celebrate the Jewish people having a marriage with God at Mount Sinai, with the Torah really as that ketubah. And traditionally, Song of Songs is read at that time, which really, Song of Solomon, and this idea that really it speaks to this love. It's actually probably was originally like erotic poetry or something, but was taken into our tradition to really be a symbol, not necessarily about human love, but about love between God and the people. And so we're honored now to welcome those congregants who are celebrating to come join me on the bima. And so to make it a little fun, let's start with the youngest and we'll work our way up. And I know some people may be 5 years, some people may be almost on to 6 because of COVID, but that's okay. So for everyone who is celebrating 5 years, please come join us. We have our lovely newlyweds, Stephanie and Jeffrey. All right. For everyone who is celebrating 10 years of marriage, come join us. And I'll tell you, my wife and I had 2 amazing rabbis at our wedding, good friends, but she always says, I love the way you perform weddings. I wish you could do it. So now I can do it, honey. I'll marry us this time, okay? Everyone, wow, look at all these marriages. It's amazing. 15 years. Got any for 15? Wow. I don't think I realized this. Both of our B'nai Mitzvah parents. Oh, so not only are we celebrating your amazing children, but our amazing parents. It's so wonderful. Yeah, you can stand next to me. All right. I was going to say the math works out. You guys are 13, right? Yeah, so we're 15. That's just about right. All right, we can do the math. 20 years. What do we have for 20 years? All right, come on up. Wow. All right, now we're starting to get there, right? 25 years. All right. Richard and Susan. Oh. And we have certificates for all of you, which you can come get at the end of services. Will probably be easier. 30 years. Any 30 years? 35 years. All right, don't worry, there's more. 40. 45. Can I get 45? Ooh. Wow. See, now this is impossible. You guys aren't old enough. Child brides here, I guess. I don't know. All right. Come on up. All right, the big one, 50 years. Wow. I think we can clap a little for that, yeah. Anyone who's been married 50 years, I think, deserves a round of applause. That is amazing. What a testament. What a testament you all are. Wow, this is so amazing. As you come up, I'll offer this blessing. Oh God, eternal source of blessing, we turn to you in gratitude for the strength and devotion that has preserved and sustained these couples and permitted them to reach this hour. In the midst of family and loved ones, you look back upon the years that have passed since they first pledged themselves to one another. Oh, wait, there's more than 50. I was just warming up. I'm so sorry. 55? 60. Look at me, I'm just like going on the blessing. This is why I need you. Wow, Jane and Benzion and Maris and Harold, that is amazing. 60 years. That is 62. We'll give it, we take any. You guys win. Anyone beat Harold and Maris? No? All right, 62. You're our winners. Many and varied have been their experiences since that day. Many have been mingled occasions of victory and defeat, of fulfillment and disappointment. You recall the joys that graced their days with light and beauty. In joys and in trials alike, O God, you have been with them. So may you continue to be with these couples, guiding and sustaining them in the years to come. May you bless them with health and contentment in the circle of their friends and all their loved ones near and far. And together we say, Amen. A Jewish wedding is typically called kiddushin. Kiddushin is often translated to mean holiness. But when we look more deeply at the core of its translation, we see that kiddushin also means separate, set apart. It is that understanding of each of you in your couples that understand that very separate, singular nature of your relationship, which brought you to that chuppah 5 to 62 years ago, which brings you once again to reconsecrate your vows today under this chuppah. And it's the love of all your family, your friends, and this entire community which come to rejoice with you. The chuppah is traditionally open on all sides, inviting the presence of our entire congregation and all your family and friends to rejoice with you here in this space. And so I'll invite you all now to hold the ring of your partner. We'll start, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, it's gender-based in Hebrew, our blessings. So we're going to start. If you are a man, or if, it doesn't matter what you are, it matters who you're doing the blessing to. So if you are blessing a man, we'll have anyone, so if your partner is a man, you're going to say this to your man, okay? Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or anything else in between, but if you are a man, you are going to say this blessing to your man, okay? If you're saying this to me, you'll repeat after me. And you can hold the ring, all right, and repeat after me. Hare atah. Mikudash li. B'taba'at zo. Kedat Moshe. V'Yisrael. Be wedded to me. As my husband. With this ring. According to the customs of Moses and Israel. And now, if you are saying this to a woman, you can hold her ring and repeat after me. Harei at mikudeshet li. B'taba'at zo kedat Moshe v'Yisrael. Be wedded to me as my wife with this ring, according to the customs of Moses in Israel. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh amo Yisrael al yadei chukpah v'kiddushin. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctifies our people at this moment at chuppah. And now to hear some beautiful words from Song of Songs.
Dodi li bani lo haroeh bashoshanim. Dodi li mizot ola min hamidbar mizot ola min hamidbar. Dodi li bani lo haroeh bashoshanim. Dodi li bashoshanim. Dodi li.
And I think most importantly, you can all smooch again. For this blessing and so many more, we join together in Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh.
Mazel tov, everyone. Mazel tov.
Nobody has to worry about who's dealing with the caterer. That's great. That feels good. We're looking for things that make us feel good. That certainly does it. In the summer of 1987, I attended NIFTY in Israel, along with enough teens from my home congregation in West Bloomfield, Michigan, that we were considered our own academy, which is the subgrouping of participants for NIFTY, usually by region, and necessitated our own bus. Our madrich, or counselor for this trip, was our freshly minted and newest rabbi to serve our congregation, along with his wife, Wendy, who was also a seasoned youth leader. Over the course of the trip, we shared in some of the most incredible adventures, and to this day, it serves as an example in my mind of how all the preparation in the world cannot account for everything. And at the same time, how a great deal of flexibility can change even one person's perspective of what is possible and what is worthy of elevating. I was emotionally invested in the whole experience, and taking the advice of some wise family and friends, I maintained a journal for the entire journey. Of course, I wrote about all the major locations and activities, but I spent a great deal of time writing about the littlest of details, the smells, the sounds, how I was feeling and who I was interacting with. I drew pictures and diagrams for some of the things I wanted to explain and understand further. And as someone who had never previously kept any kind of diary, I developed my own relationship with keeping an account of history as I was walking firsthand through it. It was truly an exercise in being a teenager and a responsible and diligent chronologist. To contribute every day was a challenge, and some days I had to write while everyone else was asleep for fear of being ostracized for my need to keep it all on paper. Some days are very generalized in my account, and other days are etched deeply upon my heart. For me, the act of writing was like our treatment of Shabbat, an opportunity to carve out or set aside time as sacred moments, and writing about my day became a sacred act. Prior to my trip, I had been exposed to the music of Beged Kefet, a group of clergy who had gotten together when they were students in Israel and have since composed and arranged many important contemporary musical works. I had seen them in concert at my congregation after they had released an album dedicated to raising funds and awareness for Yad L'Kashish, a lifeline for the aged in Jerusalem. Yad L'Kashish was founded in 1962 by Miriam Mendelow, a school teacher who was tired of observing the horrible ways in which the elderly were treated in Jerusalem. In the city of Jerusalem, there are ordinances that protect precious spaces and antiquities, and in 1962, there were few social services in Israel and less attention towards elevating their aged and most vulnerable residents. Yad L'Kashish was created to give them a place to create and to share their unique skills and to feel that sense of purpose within their community that fosters self-worth and dignity. Their personalized crafts and artwork are currently for sale on their website to benefit their programs. And when I first visited Israel in July of 1987, Miriam was there to personally greet us and show us around her center. What we saw did not fully register until I was able to give it proper thought. Here was a community of elderly Jerusalem residents who were able to live in their own homes and commute to a centralized location just outside of Jerusalem's old city walls, and contribute directly to programs that utilize their unique perspectives and talents. In this way, they were able to weave their story into the rich tapestries that continue to be developed to this day. None of this would have ever been on my radar had I not been shown their potential. So, the need to elevate elements of both our life and our society that sustain our values and challenge many of our more recent feelings of being overwhelmed and helplessness is so important right now. In our Torah portion, Baha'alotcha, we have a very common occurrence in the book of Numbers, in that this begins as a retelling of some earlier commandments that are, of course, going to be enhanced. The rules surrounding the creation of the portable sanctuary and their lampstands is nothing new. But the retelling also contains an opportunity to both recognize and elevate the Levites, the descendants from the tribe of Levi, who are guaranteed a job in service of God and the temple if they so desire. In some ways, it seems like a small detail to mention the procedures for lighting the lamps. But the verb used, la'alot, to raise up, is critical to how we view our relationship with mitzvot. If it is your natural practice to incorporate a high level of intention and thoughtfulness to your regular daily work and lifestyle, you are certainly functioning optimally. But if in these days and times you find yourself searching harder for meaning, connection, and sustainable feelings of both validation and value in your efforts, firstly, be kind to yourself and know that you are in an expanding majority. We are all searching in some way for more reasons to do the right things that we already know we need to do more of, to tip the scales back towards a society committed to naturally feeling good about the ways that we care for each other. In the world of the ancient Israelites, the Levites were important, and even within their tribe, they had specific roles to play. In their day, priesthood was determined by being a direct descendant of Aaron and his sons, and even though they were also from the tribe of Levi. Therefore, not every Levite was also a Kohen. Similarly, from last week's portion of Naso, not every person who took the vow of a Nazirite in service to temple or to God was born from the tribe of Levi. This demonstrates how each person has a chance to do important and holy work on their terms and at their time and speed. This last statement continues to this day. You do not need a degree from Hebrew Union College to raise the lamps, to bring more light into our world in your unique ways. You do not need to have a specific holiday or time of the year to remember to apologize for doing wrong, or to give your gifts of money or time, or to remember a loved one who has meant something to your life. You don't need to wait for someone else to give you permission to do something wholesome and good for someone else. However, we do need to refocus our vision towards recognizing when others are doing good, to remind them that we see them and that we're willing to join with them. We need to validate and participate all at the same time. In this way, we're raising their light as our lights to be noticed and appreciated. A very tired and frustrated Moses also appears to us in this Torah portion. And like the suggestion given by his father-in-law Jethro back in the book of Exodus, God reminds Moses to take counsel from representatives from each tribe to help administer the day-to-day operations of leading such a large group towards Canaan. By elevating these tribal heads They share in the difficult job of maintaining focus and morale. Even the prophetess Miriam loses her way, and in a very human moment, doubts her brother, but also speaks words of harm about his wife. Her punishment was a horrible skin affliction, and though this seems like a her problem, it reverberates to all of Israel as she is recognized as the water bearer and the one who finds water in the desert. And although Moses prays for her to be healed, later on, in her absence, it directly contributes to his own downfall when his desire to bring water from the rock turns to a boastful and opportunistic moment, and one that ultimately keeps him from entering the land. Our actions can be ones that help elevate, and they can also be ones that contribute to our downfall. It is up to us to determine which lampstands we are holding up. In times that are expensive as well as being uncertain, we can still do small things that add up to big ones. For example, when we go to the market or the drugstore, choose one item that is not on your list that you can buy and donate for someone else, and follow through with your intention. Remember to give acknowledgement when something good happens to you, just as you would hope that same validation comes back around when something good is done through you. Start to see how your life and your role matters in the small things, as well as in the greater scheme of things, and when possible, make adjustments that can fine-tune our impact, both possible and positively or negatively, when we need to pull back. Like this portion in the Torah, not much is glaringly new. It has all been said before. But it is also up to us to see that new light shining down upon us and to use that light to see where our differences matter and where they need to be moving forward along on our journey. May you all find that purpose and light that you seek this Shabbat, and may it continue to guide us to the world we all need to live in. Shabbat Shalom.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Continue in our service with Aleinu on pages 282 and 287. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week, our congregation observes yahrzeit for Sidney Abrams, Uziel Adini, George Isaac Albert, Theodore Balbus, Abraham Bauer, Belle Rosenbaum-Beldick, Elsie Friedman-Berg, Sylvia Bernstein, Anna E. Blank, David H. Blatt, Joyce Boyask, Foley Brofsky, Bernard H. Brown, Faye Himmelstein-Burns, Morton L. Charleston, David J. Cohan, Carrie Dannenbaum-Cohen, Norton Cooper, Jack Herbert Diamond, Abe Einheber, Frank Elkins, Helen Feinberg-Fishback, Mildred Millie Fisher, Eugene Freed, Bernard Bud Friedman, Bella Friesman, Ray R. Garfield, Linda Glover, Alan Goldstein, Julian Gorenstein, Esther L. Gree, Anna Ruth Greenberg, Ruth Weber Greenberg, Natalie Greenberg, Joseph J. Greenberg, Anna Gross, Arthur Samuel Grossman, Benjamin M. Grunstein, Lena M. Herback, Amelia Einstein Hess, Fred Indig, Gollum Irving, Clara Schaefer Israel, Joseph Jaffe, Victor Kaler, Adele G. Cates, Maurice Kins, Celia Kirschbaum, H. Lewis Lou Klein, Irving Clothen, Gertrude Krieger, Estelle Davis Cron, Herbert Lane, Carl Lavin, Simon Leopold, Alvin Leopold Levi, Myrna Linsenberg, Murray Lipner, Andrea Dede Lipschitz, Edward Witt Lovenstein, Ethel Magaziner, Jack Mazer, William E. McKenna, Edwin Mendelson, Beatrice Myers, Catherine Millman, Alfred Monroe, Joseph Nussbaum, Veronica Obermeyer, Reese Paley, Paul Peck, Marlene Pomper, Jason Poster, Nettie Reback, Celia Wagman Richter, Frederick Robinson, Rebecca Wilder Rod, Gordon F. Rogers, Lieutenant David Rogers, Molly Rosenblatt, Joseph J. Rosenbluth, Hetty Rosenstein, Edward L. Ruberg, Sadie Sobel Soblowski, Jake Saul, Rhea Saul, Frida Sanders, Kenneth Scott Schwam, Karen Scott, Louis C. Siegel, Oscar Silberg, Arthur W. Simon, Maurice Sloman, Sylvan E. Sotzman Jr., Max Spector, Lucy F. Stifel, Sally Strauss, Carl W. Stursberg Jr., Paul Tankel, Frank Teller, Benjamin Treifeld, Gerald Weschler, M. James Wiseman, Ida Schechtman Weitzenhofer, Betty Goldstone White, Louis E. Weiss, Pearl Walensky, Cantor David S. Wisnia, Aaron Wolf, Corey Wolf, Laura Wolf, Mary Wyatt, Sam Zensky, Irene B. Zibelman. And we add the names of those who've been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts in these most recent days for whom we observe Shiloshim, the 30 days of mourning. Tamara Gordon, Francis Rosenbluth. If you are observing Yartzeit or Shiloshim for a loved one whose name was not mentioned, I invite you to write their names in the chat or to speak their names aloud at this time. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We turn to page 294 and rise for the Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah, Bi'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Bagala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, and let us say, Amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
We wish you a Shabbat Shalom. If this is your first time with us, please make sure to introduce yourself to our wonderful membership manager, Stephen Scher, who's waving at the back. We have consecration of vow certificates for most of you, so feel free to come up here and grab them before you head off. And if we don't have one for you, let us know, and we'll make sure to get one out for you.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
May God's light shine upon us, and may God be gracious unto us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May we feel God's presence within us always, and may we find peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.